G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dyl, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We have once again partnered with GameDay Squad to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League in 2026. Look, it's Wednesday, but I feel like the curse of round 21 has just continued to haunt me. As you can see, or not see, my face has completely disappeared from the screen. It's probably a good thing, though, you're not distracted by my good looks. You can just focus on the words and the analysis that I'm putting out. Plenty to talk about today. Let's put a line through last week's curse week. 13 relevant fantasy players went down injured or were injured before kickoff of the game. So, look, there's plenty to go through. There's plenty on the line as well. Sunday Showdown tickets are almost coming to an end. We're almost getting into the NRL side of the Sunday Showdown finals. GDS Cup is heating up. We've got one more round of the group stage there. Plus, there's always a prize card to be won come end of season. Stu, welcome to the show, mate. Let's go around the grounds. How'd you go last week? With a couple of pods in particular, a couple of centres that we weren't sure about. How did you end up?
Yeah, not a bad week, mate, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in once again. Dyl, can I just clarify that this is definitely you and not AI? I know you're doing a lot of things for GDS behind the scenes, and this is a little bit fishy. I'm sure you've worked out something here to save a little bit of time. And no, but anyway, yeah, around the grounds, round 21, 10th in Challenger, 7th in the under 24, 7th in prime time. Lovely to see that little bit of text didn't update there, but that does mean prime time. So a couple of handy finishes there in those competitions. Challenger's my top squad at the moment, prioritizing that in line for a prize card in that tournament. But it was the late, I guess, relegation of Harry Grant to the bench. We've seen it happen a couple of times. Post-origin, that sort of thing. But it sort of scared me a little bit. There are a couple of other good hookers available. I had an Ollie Pascoe diamond that wasn't being used. Threw him in there, and look, the 66 by 1.4 was a lot better than poor Harry Grant's hamstring. And what was it, a sub 10-point performance or something? Pretty poor there for anyone that played Harry Grant. But yeah, not too bad, all things considered. How did you go?
Yeah, look, just pointing that out, Michael Cossie was straight into the comments early on before the shot even kicked off with the Harry Grant and the crying emoji. So, yeah, I think a few got burnt by that. Just one of those 13 players that were injured. But as we always say, the benefit of GameDay Squad, we press clear team or clear squad and we can start again this week. Yeah, I went to change and update my results for this week, and they were exactly the same as last week's results as well. 10th and under 24s and 6th in Sunday Showdown. So it was great to get a couple of those top 10 finishes under the belt. The Ollie Pascoe diamond for me in the Sunday Showdown was the big one there, along with all of the Dragons, obviously, as well. I put some salary onto a couple of the Dragons. Forwards there that did the job. Still chasing a Sunday Showdown win, though. I can't quite get there, so hopefully I might find a wild card spot. But it was Isaiah Iongi that was probably the difference maker for me in a couple of my sides. I was pretty high on him coming into the round, and he definitely saluted, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, guys, we say it every week, but Dyl and I obviously having plenty of success across a range of competitions, and we'll be bringing you all of the stats that you need to know every single night of the season, every single Wednesday night of the season. Trying a special time of 6:30 tonight. A little bit of feedback that some people couldn't quite make the 6 o'clock. We had to sort of work around the AFL boys, but they're doing a little bit of recording at different times now. So let us know if 6:30 p.m. time slot suits those of you that are live, or if you think maybe 7 o'clock would suit, or you want to get back to the 6 p.m. We can still trial out a number of things and then get something organised for next season that suits you all as well. So make sure you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel so you don't miss a thing. So if we do end up changing that time and you haven't seen that announcement on the Discord, you won't be left stranded. Those weekly Wednesday shows, we're going to preview who we think are the best best plays across each of the positional groups. We'll talk about some of the start and sits. We'll talk about some of the pod plays. We'll talk about some of the guys that we want to fade as well. Some of the guys we're not so high on. We'll talk about some salary pods, the guys that we want to invest a lot of salary in. We'll talk about the primetime, the Stats Lab primetime competition happening as well. We'll talk about the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown segment. Of course, the under 24s. There's so much happening each and every week. And of course, everyone's favorite, the BroDown ShowDown. And I think you are quietly rolling along to victory land in that, aren't you, Dyl? So look, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us on all of our other socials as well. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Instagram, those of you that are keen on the gridiron or the NFL, there'll be a lot of content in your way in the very near future regarding that. We are super excited. And also subscribing to all of those pages will also give you plenty more opportunities to win a whole heap of cool pack and card giveaways. So make sure you do that.
Definitely. And as we've always talked about, NFL is going to be a big thing coming up, but there's plenty of ways to get involved as well. So make sure you sign up now. Plenty of packs to be won, plenty of cards, plenty of prizes. So use that promo code FBRL26. If you are talking to anyone and they are keen to sign up for NFL in particular, they can still use that promo code. Let us know and we'll sort out some packs for them once the NFL is underway. So if you are talking to people, make sure they use that promo code FBRL26 and they'll get some free packs there as well. So plenty of time to sign up. Make sure you do so. Get all of your friends involved. And we cannot wait for the rest of the year, really. We've got NFL. We've got AFLW starting up in a couple of weeks' time. And then Big Bash as well later in the season. NBL's not too far away. So plenty to get around in terms of fantasy sports and Game Day Squad. Look, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into what everyone's here for. And the first position we always look at is the hookers. And there's a bit of reluctancy this week, I think, for me to go with Ollie Pascoe, but he is one of the three that are strongly considered. We've also got Blake Brayley. We've got Owen Paddy, who's back from that suspension as well, who's playing some good footy starting in the hooker role. Our points of difference that we might touch on, Api Coruscant, who's got the kicking duties at the moment. We'll see if that still stays. Also Reece Robson there. And then our fades, Damien Cook, he's just going to continue to sit on that fade list each and every week. And Wade Egan as well. His output is way down. So, Stu, what hooker, I guess, this week is your number one that you're looking at?
Yeah, great question, because I still don't think I've decided on my number one hooker. And look, those three guys on screen, we can see that, probably Blake Brayley would have been the pick of the bunch if we have to go without Harry Grant. But, he's down on averages in recent weeks compared to Owen Paddy and Ollie Pascoe. Obviously, in the last three, Owen Paddy averaging 56 points and Ollie Pascoe a massive 67. Look, I think it is between Blake Brayley and Ollie Pascoe for me, just because they're all but guaranteed of the 80 minutes. Look, Blake Brayley definitely more so guaranteed the 80 minutes. We have seen Pascoe a little bit of a minute's risk, particularly with Sammy Verrills on the bench. But look, he's such a good support play. I don't think there's certainly no better hooker or forward support player in the competition at the moment than Oliver Pascoe. And when he backs up, a Jaden Campbell, Keanu Kinney, or Jalen de Groot, like we saw on the weekend, and he can score some tries, then that's certainly relevant for our fantasy sides. I think we're just relying on some attacking stats whenever we roll out an Ollie Pascoe with the chance of maybe a 60 or 65 minutes performance. I love the attacking stats, but look, I think it's back to Blake Brayley this week, just for some safety, just for some consistency. I know it's boring, but look, we've seen some pretty floor games from Owen Paddy. We've seen a sub 30-minute performance from Ollie Pascoe. I'd hate to see something like that happen to particularly my challenger side. So in summary, I think Blake Brayley is my confidence pick just for a 50 or a 55. I don't think he's going to go ballistic. We saw him score. We saw him get about 7 or 8 try assists in the first 6 weeks, and that's sort of fallen off a cliff recently. All of the try assists are going to the halves or the outside backs, and he's just getting a lot of work through his tackling. But look, if he's going to put up 50, 55 points, I'm happy to bank that in. But if I want to go upside, I might try to squeeze in Owen Paddy somewhere or use that Ollie Pascoe for that high upside attacking output.
Yeah, definitely. Look, just quickly, Skipper's just joined us. He thinks it's just you today. No, Skip, I am here as well. I'm just just an image on a screen at the moment. Unfortunately, for some reason, I can see my camera. It's working fine on my end, but for some reason, this week just does not like me. So I am here and I am involved. Look, for me, I same thing I do pretty much every week now. I've jumped across to the StatsLab app over on statslab.app, and I've put in those 3 players in terms of Pascoe, Brayley, and Paddy, just to have a look at some of the differences in that player comparison tool. And it's actually surprising. We talk about Brayley having the minutes and the safety aspect in terms of that floor, and then Pascoe's got that attacking upside. But their base stats are very similar. 48 tackles on average for Pascoe when he's playing 60 minutes or more at hooker versus Brayley, 40 tackles. Both are running about 55-ish meters per game. Tackle breaks, slightly more to Pascoe as well, averaging 2 tackle breaks per game. But the thing for me that we talk about a lot in terms of hookers, 3.5 missed tackles per game from Pascoe versus 1 for Brayley. So yeah, there is that safety in Brayley, I think, where we're not going to have those demerits. We're not going to lose those points that he's racking up for us. But there is that obviously upside of the 4 tries that Pascoe scored and the couple of try assists that he's had when he's playing 60 plus minutes starting at hooker. So I think for me, there's a couple of aspects I think involved as well. There's also the fact that if we go across to the stats lab, have a look at the percentage, 6.8% Ollie Pascoe has currently played across all standard competitions. If we break that down further, champions only 4, challenger 8%, contender 8%, starter 5%. So there's a lot of Pascoe that's not being played. So it could be a massive pod, even though we strongly consider him. So yeah, a couple of decisions to be made. I think for me, it's going to be Brayley across a number of my squads, with Pascoe as a little bit of a pod in some of those ones where maybe there's not as much on the line, and I'm looking for just that weekly win rather than chasing that overall season win. In terms of the point of differences then outside of those 3, do either Robson or Coruscant open up to you, or is it just a little bit of a look this week based on particular Appy? He started the game quite well. Obviously, they've lost plenty of games to big points, but he did have the kicking duties, albeit he only had a couple of options, a couple of chances to have a kick.
Yeah, no, I can't really get to a Robson or a Coruscant. Obviously, a goal-kicking hooker would be fantastic, but with Dewey back in that side now, and you mentioned it in our chat last week that the Tigers needed to score some tries for the goal-kicking to actually count, and gee, that doesn't look likely, does it? Let's hope the Tigers do turn up this weekend, but that remains to be seen. Look, if you want to get spicy, Reece Robson could get through his 45, 50 tackles with a try assist or 2 against the Cowboys that have been given up a little bit through the middle, but I don't think the hooker position is anywhere we need to get fancy. If you don't own an Ollie Pascoe card, I'm sure you've got a few Blake Brayleys or Chancer Nolan Paddy, despite the tough matchup with Penrith. The Raiders are going to be up for that game, and he's going to need to be super creative from that dummy half position in order for them to have any chance.
Yeah, and a couple of 40-20s, excuse me, for Owen Paddy as well. Look, the only other one that I want to touch on really quickly before we move on is Damien Cook. He has absolutely fallen off a cliff. He used to be an absolute god when it came to fantasy. Obviously, the impact of Little has such a big player in this. Is Little someone that you're probably looking to stash now? I put that in the chat as well. Looking forward to next season, Damien Cook obviously off to the Super League. Little's going to be this player potentially where he comes on and he has 60, 65 minutes and he's just attacking through the middle that we've seen from him in the past. Is he someone you're trying to get a bit of stock in now?
Absolutely. Yeah, we spoke just about any time Damien Cook was under an injury cloud or even out that, it was wheels up Jacob Little, and I wouldn't mind the Dragons sort of looking at 2027. Obviously, that starting team is going to be a lot different in terms of what they rolled out this season. It's an exciting team for 2027. So why not get someone like Jacob Little extra minutes under the belt, even if it means using Cookie as an extra forward, give some of those younger middles a spell. It obviously doesn't help our fantasy sides, but look, Jacob Little is going to need to be that big 60, 70, 80-minute guy next season. So why not start giving him, some more minutes under his belt leading into the end of the season. Now, hopefully, we can see Jacob Little in the number 9, and we've got even more decisions to make in the hooker position. But absolutely, definitely get your Jacob Little cards ready for next season. Great point there, Dyl.
Definitely. Alrighty, just before we jump across to middles, don't forget to throw into the comments who you are playing or if you've got any start-sit questions. Looks like Gannis is locking in Harry Grant, or is he saying Harry Grant's going to play in the lock position? I'm not quite sure, but obviously Harry Grant injured, so you want to go elsewhere. Alrighty, let's jump across to the middles. Let's get straight to the elephant, or should I say the tiger in the room. Fantasy Bro Matt called it out a couple of weeks ago. Terrell May as a massive fade. Probably went a week or two early on the fade there. The big question is, and the question for you is, do we stick with both May and Twal, or is this sort of the end of the run for elite upside in these two middles?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. It sucks that we have to have this discussion. It would have been nice just to be able to lock those two in, from start to finish, set and forget, and move on to the other positions. But the minutes have been a worry. 53 for Terrell May in the weekend just gone. Although the scoreboard probably plays a bit of a factor in that, there were no chance of getting back into the game there. There's sort of no point rolling out, your middle forwards that have gone through so much work and keep getting them battered and, shooting their confidence down. So I think Benji, you might have an eye on, the next few weeks and trying to put a little bit more faith back into the supporters with some decent performances. That game against Canberra was gone. So if they want to win matches, it is, through the likes of Adam Doueihi, but then also obviously those big forwards in Terrell May, Alex Twal. They just do so much of the dirty work, both with ball in hand and tackling. So if the Tigers are to compete at all for the rest of the season, Benji's just got to, suck it up and get those two guys out on the field. So for me, not panic stations yet. I will be rolling both out in my side. 88 to 10 points combined scoreline over the past two matches obviously means a lot of standing under the posts for the Tigers. So yeah, the base stats are obviously down. The minutes were a concern, but with Doueihi back this week, maybe the Tigers bounce back. I really hope so. For May and Twal to be relevant, we need to see them with a 6 at least in front of their minutes, certainly not a 5. If that continues again this week, then this time next week, Dyl, I think I'll have a line through at least one or two of those Tigers.
And I think for me, the advice to people looking at these two players, and probably May more so than 12, but both of them, and thinking at the end of the weekend, once it's all said and done, and I've played them, am I going to be annoyed that they've got 40 points? Or am I going to be more annoyed if I didn't play either of them and they come away with an 80? So I think if you ask yourself that question, I know I'd probably be more annoyed at myself if I faded them and they hit their ceiling, which for May can be close to 100. But if they hit their ceiling this week in particular, where Adam Doueihi's back, although whispers around he might be playing in the middle forward role rotation as well. So I don't know. He's put his hand up and said he'll play anywhere, but I think for me, that's the thing is I'm going to be more annoyed if I fade them and they score 80 than if I play them and they score a 40 to 50. So I think for me, I'm more than happy to continue playing them alongside the other two blokes that are strongly considered in Toby Couchman and Payne Haas. Talk to me. Toby Couchman is just a lock across every one of your squads now.
I'm so happy for that. At the start of the year, I was making jokes about the amount of times I spoke about Toby Couchman in the preseason and I swear that Ryan Couchman was wearing his jersey because Ryan was outperforming him, and we thought, that was so bizarre and what a massive fall off for Toby Couchman. So I'm just so glad that he's, surged back into contention for, one of the elite middle forwards in the competition at such a young age as well. You can see on screen there, 73 average over the past 3 and 62 for the season after a pretty slow start. So yeah, look, absolutely. The minutes are there. Still got 65 on the weekend, despite, there might have been some suggestion about, Dean Young's spot is safe there at the gong, and they might be looking at some different combinations or getting some of the bench forwards a few more minutes. But no, straight into 65, 72 points, purely out of base. He's an absolute lock and load for me. And a lot like the other Dragons forwards. I'm so glad we've got them as pretty easy plug and play options.
Yeah, that side's going to look unreal next year with Ongamatangi coming into that forward pack as well. You could have almost the whole forward pack playing 80 minutes. That would be unreal. Look, just quickly before we talk about a couple of points of difference and then the one fade that I really think is a fade this week. Gunners has raised a really good point here. Tino obviously bailed out with that try last week. I think it might have been his first try for the season. A nice little cheeky play from the hooker straight to Tino to get the try over the line. Are we sticking with him this week, or are we looking more at Irui Kamanu, who did return to some form? He had 6 tackle breaks on the weekend, which I just talked about. I think maybe he's watching the show, actually, Stefano, because I blasted him for being a bit poor through the middle and not breaking any tackles, and he go and break 6 there, and had a really good line break as well and was looking really good with the ball. So is Tino someone you're going to stick with, or is it really Uru Kamanu that's taking over that role for you now?
Yeah, they sort of both of those players sort of tease us a little bit. They have a couple of, really handy matches, and we think, here we go, they've turned the corner. There's going to be some more consistency, and then they drop back into the 30s or the 40s. We saw Stefano go 80, 67, 68, backed it up with a 36 and a 43, just out of nowhere. And one of those was 74 run meters as well. And it wasn't like the minutes changed or, there was any significant injury. Everything was still pretty consistent, but just the scoring completely fell off a cliff. And you see those numbers, you see the outputs, declining, and then you go, okay, well, no, I'm not going to put him in my side anymore. Backs it up with a 70 against the Chooks, then an 88 with back to 6 tackle breaks. It's so difficult for these middle forwards, and and the Tino. Anyone that played him last week, you would have been, fist pumping that you did get bailed out with that late try. But look, if he didn't score that, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation about Tino at all this week, given the output last week. So, yeah, for me, it's if it's between those two, Stefano, just because he's shown a little bit slightly more consistency. The tackle breaks are there. But for me, it's the other guy on the pod list that we'll talk about soon that I like even more. What's your take there on the Stefano and the Tino battle?
Yeah, I feel like I talk about this quite a lot, but again, it's the demerits, it's the missed tackles. And for me, it's probably leaning towards Stefano because he's missing less tackles at the moment. Tino the week before didn't have any missed tackles, which is great. But against the Storm in round 19, he had 7 missed tackles. That's 21 GDS points gone begging. Whereas Stefano's really cleaned up that part of his game from previously. So I think for me, if you're going to stick on the tackles, whether you make tackle breaks or anything else outside of that, his run meter is slightly up as well, Stefano. I think for me, based on that, I think I'd rather keep the points in the bag. So for me, it'd be slightly towards Stefano over Tino, just purely based on that. But yeah, I think the other player that you're going to talk about in terms of Xavier Willison, again, an under 24 start that we haven't put in there, but he is a massive play this week as well across all competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. 80 minutes there on the left-hand edge. Ezra Mam decided that he had an absolute weapon outside him and started to use him a little bit, which is fantastic to see close to the line. And look, they're going to be licking their lips, that combination, when they look up and see, the likes of Sandon Smith and who is it, Francis Manule-Lua as well. The Knights are, a little bit depleted there in terms of their outside backs or their back rowers as well, with obviously no Dill Lucas, plenty of forwards across that team. So I think Xavier Willison is every chance of finding some attacking stats in any given game, but it's not like he just does no work and catches a cold when he's playing on the edge as well. He actually does a lot of work, gets through at least 30 to 35 tackles, but he's run over 200 meters from that edge forward position quite frequently. So not only the attacking threat, gets through plenty of base. So even if he doesn't capitalize on the weeknights, edge defense, then he's still going to put up a handy score, I think. Just through the base that he gets through.
Yeah, and look, Sandon Smith, you touched on him. He missed 4 tackles last week, 4 tackles in round 19 as well. So I think just line Willison up against him and run straight over the top. And we'll be laughing that he probably bags a try there as well. We saw some brilliance as well from him with the little grubber through from Mam, and then Willison was on that. So he's always up for getting a meat pie as well. So it's great to see. In terms of the fade, I've got Isaiah Yeo there. He's averaging 54 for the season, down to 50. We talked about him last week. It's falling off a cliff a little bit for him. And we've had this conversation quite a few times that really that elite upside that he had is just not there anymore. So for me, I'm happy to fade him. Is that where you're at as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No sort of interest in him. It's a shame as well with the couple of all-star cards in the account that you sort of scroll through and I can't even find a reason to play him in my challenger or classic side at the moment. It's just the minutes. It's pretty boring at the moment there in Panther Town, isn't it? Particularly for their forwards.
Yeah, probably just holding it together so that the Warriors can take over that number 1 spot in the Premiership run home. Alrighty, let's jump across to the edges. And obviously the big news you can see on screen, Hudson Young, Dylan Lucas and Noah Martin all out injured. Plus we've got Olakau'atu on a bye. So we're losing a big chunk of that top sort of 5 to 10 in terms of the edge forwards. So where are we looking elsewhere? At the moment, we've got strongly considered in terms of Jacob Preston, who returned to some form. Sia Wong's got a really good matchup this week. And then Ryan Couchman, we've talked about him week in, week out. He's finally made it onto the big board. Point of difference, we've got Dill Egan there again, and we've got Fini Fuiaki, who's back off the bye. Our fade that we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about, Keon Kalonga-Matangi and then Helam Lukey as well. Stu, for you, who's your number 1 edge forward?
It's actually Ryan Couchman. I just want the safety. Sick of trying to find these high upside attacking edge back rowers and then it just blowing up in my face and then returning a 40 or a 45 with a really underwhelming performance and me sitting on the couch for 80 minutes just praying and begging and hoping they get a short ball close to the line and scoring. It just seems that it happens far more often. So I'm going to lock the guy in that's getting the minutes, that's getting through the work, and it's the other Couchman. Ryan Couchman, playable as an edge forward in GameDay Squad, obviously rolling out with the number 13 on his back for the Dragons. And again, another one of those youngsters getting through plenty of minutes, another 69 minutes on the weekend for 76 points, 3 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 57 tackles. and still over 100 run meters as well. That's just a common occurrence for him. If he doesn't have at least 100, it's a poor outing. But we're talking about a bloke that can get to 50 tackles. He's averaging 44 tackles, but that includes 5 or 6 games off the bench early on in the season minutes. So an absolute weapon, an absolute guy that you can just rely on to get through plenty of base. He's not going to get the attack, but look, if I can't get an edge back rower scoring a try for me and I'm underwhelmed with a 40 or 45, I'm going to take this sort of 60 odd to the bank. And it's I'm a big fan of Ryan Catchman this week and probably the rest of the season.
And we've talked about him a few times, really. It's probably better to look at his output from round 11, where he did move to that lock role, averaging 64 minutes, 60 GDS points as a result, 45 tackles, as you mentioned, over 130 running meters, a couple of tackle breaks and offloads there. But the upside, as you said, is there's no attacking stats. It's all in base and power that we're getting that 60-odd GDS points in. So there's plenty of safety there. And obviously a lot of the Dragons around him are doing some good things at the moment. Hamish Stewart stepping up and playing some good footy on the edge. Dyl Egan on the other side as well. So there's no need for Ryan Couchman to be putting in some of those attacking stats. But if for whatever reason we do start to see that, there's just massive upside there for me. So I really like that outlook. The Finns allowing an average of 48 to locks as well this season. That actually has them ranked as the second easiest matchup to lock forwards this weekend. So there is some upside there as well. The player I do like, I'm a bit stuck on at the moment though, because the matchup data says it's great, is Seo Wong. We've obviously seen a bit of a roller coaster from him throughout the season. The Cowboys are allowing an average of 60 over the past 3 games to right edges. And in that time, that's only 1 try that's been scored. And we sort of look at Seo Wong and think there's heaps of upside there. He's a try-scoring edge back rower, but he hasn't scored that many this season. In the games he has, he's obviously gone big, but in some of those games, he's returned some pretty good base and power as well. For me, I've sort of summarized it and said he's been good without being amazing this season, averaging 50 points from Seo Wong. That's 38 tackles, 116 running meters, 2+ tackle breaks, but it's his missed tackle count again that's hurt him this season. Is he someone that you're looking at as well? Or are you thinking more about just running out the 2 edge back rowers in Couchman and maybe Preston and getting some more consistency from a middle forward?
Yeah, I think it is just going to be 2 edges for me this weekend across most sides, and Ryan Cashman will be one of them. So he's a bit of a cheat edge, not even playing edge for his club. I think it will be between Preston and someone like Kulakefe Finifuiaki. Suawong, just so much promise and capable of such a big performance on his day. I can just never seem to get it right. The big upside is we know that the right-hand side is the way to attack against the Cowboys. So I think that there is some opportunity there for Wong to find some attacking stats. But I think I've said it before, whenever I put faith in those edge back rowers who seem like they have a dream matchup on paper, it just never seems to pay dividends. So no, it won't be Sua Wong for me other than the under-24s. I will maybe find a piece of Jacob Preston or Kulakefe Finifuiaki.
Yeah, I like it. And just quickly, so Sif Kang is going with the Ryan and the Preston, so Ryan, Couchman and Preston. Preston, for me, he's starting to return to that form that we've seen from the past. I think at one point in time, it was Preston, it was Olakau'atu, and it was Lucas that was sort of the 3 locks into the edge forward side. He returned with a 78-point performance last week, sort of getting back into form. Is he then someone that you're going to look at maybe as a bit of a set and forget over the next few weeks when we won't have Lucas for the rest of the season? And Olakau'atu is playing some good footy, albeit that the Manly side are really struggling at the moment as well.
Yeah, look, if the Dogs continue showing what they've shown over the past 2 weeks, I think we'll start having more conversations about more Dogs, Stephen Crichton, Jacob Kiraz, and Preston being, some of the guys that we'll look to get to most weeks, just because they've sort of turned their season around from an attacking point of view. And if we can see that Preston-Galvin combination working well like it did at the start of the year, there's no reason why Preston can't get back into some big numbers. We've finally seen, a rejuvenance of that Dogs outfit. And I think that is boding well for guys like Jacob Preston, who can get through plenty of base, but it's certainly, sometimes their big scores certainly do rely on the attacking output. My question to you, though, Dyl, is did you see the little tongue poke out that he did, sort of imitating some of the Warriors plays in the weekend just gone? Did you find that a bit offensive? And are you going to roll him out in your side after seeing that? Or does that sort of fire you up and tell you that he's in for a big rest of the season with the Dogs?
Yeah, I think it does. It fires me up to go, yep, this bloke's back and he's keen to get involved.
Yeah.
And the doggies are obviously in some good form. And look, it's always a bit of fun there. And I think that's the one big thing that we always talk about is sometimes you've got to take your heart out of the game and just think about it in terms of head and the stats and what's in front of you. But yeah, I really like Jacob Preston, and I've loved him for the last few years. We've talked about his really want to get cross over that line and score tries, and that's what we want him there for as well. So yeah, I really like where he's at. Talk about then Fini Fuiaki. They're back off the bye, the Dolphins, and they've got a pretty good run home. Katoa potentially back in the side as well. He's listed in the 22 jersey. Obviously, that would be a big boost. Fini Fuiaki at the moment up against the Dragons, they're allowing 42 to the right edge over the past 2 games, and that includes round 21 when they let Fermor over for 59 GDS points, which included 2 line breaks, which we know that's what Finney loves to do. Is he someone then you're getting into your side across maybe some of your pod options?
Yeah, I think I'll be a lot more confident if Katoa is named in that starting side. There's no secret that Fini Fuiaki's points, his scores are a lot better with Katoa next to him. It's sort of been underwhelming with the odd decent score over the past month or so without Isaiah Katoa. I still think the matchup is pretty good there, despite how much we've talked up the Dragons forward pack. I still think there's plenty of tackle break and try scoring opportunities for Fini Fuiaki and a number of the Dolphins players there. So yeah, if Katoa is alongside him, I think I'll get him in my side over Preston a bit more frequently. But if no Katoa, maybe I'll just hold off on him for one more week. And yeah, if Izzy's back next week, I think that'll be a bit of an uptick for his output.
Yeah, definitely. Look, one player that we don't have there before we get into the couple of fades we've got is Samuel Afainu. I'm really keen to see how he goes this week. Obviously, in that Tigers side, you mentioned they've given up plenty of points. Across 3 games, they've given up 120 NRL points, the Tigers, across 3 games. So if we go back to the Warriors game as well. Samuel Afainu playing on the edge. He's averaging 50 this season in those 11 games that have obviously been hindered by injury. There is some opportunity with the bounce back potential, I guess, depends obviously what that mindset is coming into that game this weekend, last game of the round as well. But Fainu's averaging 45 in base and power. He's got some attacking upside. So if there is a Tigers click and they do bounce back, I think someone like Samuel Afainu could make his way into the under 24 side as well. Potentially maybe a bit of a pod if you wanted some upside. If you think that the Tigers are going to have that big bounce back. But, mate, talk to us about Keon Kalongamatangi. He's been on our pod or must play for the last couple of weeks, and now he's made his way onto the fade list, mainly because we think that the edge position for him is just not where it's at.
Yeah, he just underachieves playing on the edge. I don't know what it is. You know, we spoke about a number of other edge forwards that can still get through 40, 45 tackles and, really get involved in the game, but Kalongamatangi sort of just goes to sleep there, maybe because he's frequently on the right-hand side, and we know the Rabbitohs love that left-hand shift, so they're sort of set up through the middle and then look left more often. So maybe that's a reason why, but we really need him playing 70 or 80 minutes in the middle to be GDS relevant, and we know that his numbers are well down when he is confirmed on the edge to play. Now, I'm not sure if the Rabbitohs are playing silly buggers. We saw him named at prop last week. He spent a lot of time on the edge there. It can increase his attacking likelihood, which is good. But look, they're playing against that outstanding Sharkies team, and they're a side that loves to go left. So the likelihood of him, bumping up that floor with some attacking is pretty low. But there is still a watch on him if Tallis Duncan is named into the starting side. He is coming back. Well, he was named in the reserves well ahead of schedule. So based on all of the information we received early on about his injury, I'd be surprised to see him actually named in the starting team or on the bench. He probably will be cut. But yeah, if there is some unlikely scenario of him coming straight back into the back row because they need to get some more wins, and Keon does move back into the middle, then it's a different conversation for me. So maybe next week when Tallis Duncan is fit, ready to go, and Keon's back into the middle, then he becomes more of an option. But I just can't get to him given that he just doesn't get through enough work when he's playing on the edge.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, we have loved him, but I guess that's important to be flexible and not stick with players each and every week and make sure that you think about where they're playing and what sort of minutes look like as well. Just quickly on Helam Lukey, he's been playing some good footy, was probably bailed out a little bit with the try last week. Look, if you look at the matchup against the Roosters, it looks great on paper because Manu Lewis scored 71 last week against them, but before that, Roosters were restricting right edges to between 35 and sort of 55 points. And really, the Roosters have only conceded 3 tries to right edges all season. So the upside in what Lukey can provide, I think it's probably going to be negated by the Roosters' defence. Just quickly as well, over to Luke Skip, he has mentioned that with me talking about those 3 blokes being absolute locks in the edge position, I would have drafted Hamole Olakau'atu in the prize card draft. And I'm going to maintain that I am absolutely cursed from that. And everything since that moment of taking Ryan Pappenhausen in the prize card draft has absolutely cursed me. So fingers crossed that he comes back miraculously, plays for the PNG Chiefs in the next couple of years so that prize card is actually used. But thanks, Skipper, for reminding me. Alrighty, let's jump across to the halves. And I think it's a simple one this week. Cleary, Hines, Campbell, there are 3 strongly considered. You can see their averages there. 62 for Cleary over the last 3 weeks. He obviously had that down game a couple of weeks ago. Hines an 85 3-week rolling average and Campbell an 81-week rolling average. Is there any reason to get off any of these guys, or is it now about looking at points of difference?
Yeah, I don't think you can. Just look at those numbers, 85 and 81. If you say that a halfback is averaging above 80 this season, you go, oh, it's definitely got to be Nathan Cleary. But no, look, it's the other 2. How do you sell or 2 blokes that are outperforming Nathan Cleary over a 3-game stretch? And it's not like Cleary's numbers are down. He's still averaging 76 for the season, but 85 and 81 are still above Cleary's whole season average. So, yeah, look, I think we're pretty blessed to have these 3 guys. The matchups aren't always going to be as conducive as, a Jaden Campbell up against the Dragons, but we know that these guys just accumulate in so many different areas of the game. Despite the Titans, running 16th at the moment, there's still plenty of heart and passion in that side. So that's all we need to see from them to know that Jaden Campbell is going to keep performing. Nico's just in an absolute world of his own. And how do you possibly sit Nathan Cleary when he's so capable of a monster score? I think this is one of the easiest weeks, and it just means we're leaving out guys like Ethan Sanders, who has gone to a whole new level and putting his name up in lights over the past month or so. Sammy Walker's got a dream matchup against the Cowboys right edge, the Cowboys defensive woes there as well. Tyron Wishart's been good over the past few weeks, but I don't think any of these guys can get a look in when we've got 3 big options like those 3 on screen.
And you wouldn't think a week ago when you picked Nathan Cleary in the BroDown Showdown, when we had the halves, that he would score 93 points and still not get it done for you. That's a little spoiler for the future. But I think Fantasy Bro Matt put it into the Discord that, Nathan Cleary's 93 still wasn't in the top 3 half scores of the week as well, because that boy in Ethan Sanders just absolutely killing it at the moment. Alrighty, so let's say, look at the scenario here. We've got Jaden Campbell up against the Warriors this week. The Warriors came up short last week against the Dogs. They still have restricted those 2 halves for the Doggies to 79 GDS points combined in that game. In round 7, we go all the way back. Titans played the Warriors. JC only scored 35 in that game against the Warriors. Is there a world where maybe he doesn't play as well against the Warriors? Maybe it's a bit of his bunny side. So we're looking at someone like Wishart. The Dogs just allowed CHT to score 52, which included a try. Wishart is playing some unreal footy, as you said, 66 average over the last 3 games. Is that an option then? Do you go to Wishart potentially over JC, or is it just too hard to ignore?
Oh, look, if you're comfortable seeing JC roll out an 80 or an 85 and you go, I was expecting a sub 50, can you live with the 80 or an 85, which he's certainly capable of? For me, and the way that I like to play my GDS, no, I can't live with that. If he does go sub 50, then I'll say, well done to those that faded him. I just wasn't brave enough to do so. But yeah, look, if you've got the feeling that Wishart can continue, obviously, such a good ball runner, can break tackles at will, and if he finds the line or gets a try assist, then that's certainly going to provide him with a massive score. I can't sit there and watch Jaden Campbell. If I leave him out of my side, I'd probably want to be doing something else, maybe go for a round of golf or something. So I'm not having to watch that match if he's not in my side. For me, it might be the easy way out, but yeah, good luck if you sit one of those three I'm saying this week.
Yeah, definitely. And look, a really good option to stash away Tyron Wishart. He's going to be leading that Perth Bears side next year in the half, so he's going to have plenty of opportunity playing big minutes over there. So definitely get as much Wishart into your sides as possible for the future. Just quickly on Izzy Katoa, we already touched on him. Could be a late inclusion. He's in the 22 jersey at the moment. The Dragons allowing 55 GDS points to right halves this season. That is down in the last couple of weeks, but that 5-game rolling average against the Dragons is still around that 55 mark. So if Izzy Katoa does come in, he could potentially be a point of difference as well. But I think it's hard to have him above someone like Wishart or even Ethan Sanders, as you touched on, averaging 77 GDS points, Ethan Sanders over the past 3 weeks. I think it's been that swapping of sides, him and Strange swapped roles a little bit, and it's just been an absolute godsend for Sanders, as well as that. In that time, last 3 weeks, he's kicked 21 goals. He's increased his running meters, his kicking meters. He's added 8 try assists in that time as well. And then we just saw Mitch Moses score plenty of points against the Panthers. He dotted over for a try himself. So Ethan Sanders, if he's not in your under 24 side, he definitely needs to be there with some salary on.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Probably just can't quite be confident in him against the Penrith Panthers. And yeah, the try assists are coming for fun, aren't they? But you probably expect a bit more of a grind there and a lower outing in terms of points scored against Penrith.
Yeah, and that probably means that maybe the kicking meters might go up even again. I think it was 500 last week, so it could improve on that as well. Look, Tamara Martin is just and going absolutely cold for everyone. 36 3-week rolling average, bringing his total average for the season down to 50. So it's disappointing for the Warriors. So he's a fade for us. And then Ethan Strange against the Panthers. They've allowed 17 GDS points to left halves in the past 3 weeks or 3 games. So I think Ethan Strange is a fade for full round. Is he a fade for the under 24 competition as well?
For me, yeah, I think so. If we're going to play Ethan Sanders with a bit of risk there, obviously against Penrith, there could be an occasion where, you know, the Raiders score very few points and therefore limited try assists, limited conversions, and just relying on the base there, which might be okay for someone like Sanders. But Ethan Strange, who does rely on that attacking game, likely to have a bit of a down game there. So if I'm playing the Raiders against the Panthers, it's definitely going to be Sanders. We still got some good options, Lockie Galvin, Sammy Walker, to name a couple of them. I don't think just this week against Penrith, certainly the Raider combination in weeks that they have a plus matchup or a match that they should win, I'll be far more confident rolling both out, and they'll both in under 24s last week, where I had a bit of success there as well. So yeah, just not this week.
And just quickly, Sif Kanga, for anyone at home that is not familiar with Sif Kanga, his boy is Tyron Wishart. He's going to roll him out, and he's currently owned in 1.6% of all standard competition teams, Tyron Wishart. So that could be a super pod for Sif Kanga. In fact, maybe he's the 1.6 potentially. I'm not sure. But alrighty, let's jump into the centers. And as I touched on at the start of the show, the centers were probably one of the defining positions last week. There was obviously we were bailed out with a couple of last minute tries from a couple of players that we liked, and there was some upside in a few different players. Campbell Graham ended up having one of the top scores. Nick Meaney had an unreal game as well, and he didn't even kick goals. But this week we're back to the tried and true method of playing Herbie Farnworth and Adam Doueihi. Is there any concern over Adam Doueihi and the situation that's happened over the last couple of weeks, or is it just play as you were, and he's back to full Adam Doueihi at his best?
Yeah, a little bit of concern. Obviously, the scenes out of Tiger Town last week weren't great, but good to see that he has, you know, maybe put his hand up and admitted a little bit of fault there, and, you know, said he'll do what he needs to for the team. So it probably depends what his attitude is like. Does he and the rest of the team, you know, sort of lay down and give up, you know, because of everything that's going on, and I just sort of want to get to the end of this season, or do they, you know, decide to turn up and show a little bit of bite? Let's hope it's the latter, because if AD comes out and proves to Benji that he is, an elite halfback and he should be having a number 7 on his back wherever he goes, then you definitely want to have Adam Doueihi in your side, particularly when you can play him at centre. We've seen what he can do. It just might be one of those big statement games. We've got to wait a long while till Sunday afternoon for it to eventuate. But I think because it's the Eels and it's not really, a scary defensive unit, I think I can still get to Adam Doueihi. Let's just hope that we can see a bit of life from him and the Tigers, like I mentioned earlier with Twal and May. If we don't, then we could easily be, putting a line through a number of Tigers from next week onwards.
Yeah, and that Eels matchup is pretty good for right halves as well. 55 GDS points on average over the past 5, slightly down from the 61 that they've given up from the whole season. But yeah, I think there is plenty of upside. You'd expect him to go back kicking goals as well. So if they do score some tries there against the Eels, then he will have some extra points going his way. For me, the other thing is that I think he said it today, or maybe it was yesterday, that he is here to stick around, or in terms of at the Tigers, he's here to play, and he will play any position if he's needed to. So that's obviously a little bit of PR, obviously, to try and spin the whatever happened over the last couple of weeks his favour. But I think if you come out and you say that, then you're obviously hopefully meaning that, and that's probably good signs from the Tigers. In terms of our second centre, Herbie Farnworth up against the Dragons, they're giving up 43 in the past 5 games. They just allowed 50 GDS points to Joe Fafita down that side. Basin Powell pretty much was all that came in. He had 1 line break as well. So I would expect Herbie Farnworth to do a lot more damage down that side. That Dragons right edge, actually, in terms of those players down that right edge, they missed 11 tackles last game. And we know that Herbie Farnworth is the number 1 tackle breaker in the game. Is there any reason to get off him at all, knowing that he did have a bit of a low game a couple of weeks ago against the Sharks?
No, absolutely not. Jalen de Groot, Phil Sami, 3 tries between them last week. That should be all you need to know about whether or not you play Herbie.
Love it. Do you play the guy outside him then as well, if that's the case? I know we'll talk about wingers soon, but is the guy outside him, Cobbo, returning to the Dolphins as well? Is he a play?
Yeah, definitely an under 24s. We'll talk about his wing mate in the next segment as well. But yeah, we always say if Herbie's going to have a big game, why can't the winger outside? And we've seen Nafahu go massive as well. So yeah, absolutely. If you want to get a little bit spicy, so and Cobbo probably due 2 or 3, I reckon.
I think out of everyone, I think the most unlucky bloke on that screen there is Kaolero. Unfortunately, he's finding some form again, but it's probably just not enough for us to consider him in that position. If you're really bold, you'd play 3 centres instead of 3 fullbacks. I know Fantasy Bro Matt played 3 wingers last week and obviously had success in their Challenger competition, winning that one that week. But for me, I just cannot bring 3 centres into my side. But if you do want to get a bit of a point of difference, you've talked about Stephen Crichton the last few weeks moving into the halves, similar role that Adam Doueihi has. Is he someone that's going to be the next on your list if, for whatever reason, Farnworth is injured, Adam Doueihi decides he doesn't want to play?
Yeah, I don't mind it actually, and it's the Melbourne Storm matchup, particularly defensively on their right-hand side and the Dogs left, where teams are taking advantage. If you look at the numbers, the matchup on the left versus right is so beneficial in terms of the attacking outfit. And Stephen Crichton, Matty Burton's got a really good matchup there as well, although we have to play him in the halves. But even Rinakama as a winger as well. That edge of the field, I expect to get plenty of ball and plenty of attacking opportunity. We've seen Melbourne Storm conceding plenty of points. They're not the same outfit that they once were, and now they're doing it without Harry Grant as well. So, look, Stephen Crichton, if you look at his last few years, 61 against the Titans, playing at 5'8" was fantastic. No try, 5 goals, but 3 try assists. That injury versus the Raiders was pretty scary. 32 against the Warriors. On paper, with a try, it looks really poor, but just got to scroll across to look at his missed tackles, errors, penalty concedes. 8 missed tackles, 2 errors, 2 penalty concedes. That's like 30 or more points that he's given up. And when we talk about him being such a good defensive weapon, for someone to miss 8 tackles, that's surely can't happen again, can it? So, yeah, I think there's a bounce back for Stephen Crichton in terms of those demerits. And, that 32 could easily look like a 55-60, and he surges back into contention when it's a plus matchup there against the poor Storm right-hand side. I'd love to be able to play him, but just can't quite get there with Herbie and AD.
And I like the output that we've had from Critter last week. 400 kicking meters, 70 run meters. He's got that upside of kicking goals. So there's some definite upside with some base and power there as well. Just quickly on a couple of our fades, we've got Bradman Best and Robbie Toyer. Robbie Toyer obviously had a good game last week, had one of the top scores again for centres. Comes up against the Cows, who we've talked about have a really good upside for oppositions, but in terms of right centres, they've allowed 36 in the past 3 and only 30 in the past 5 games. And we've seen some down games from Robbie Toyer in the past. I think Bradman Best as well. There's a lot happening there in terms of depletion at the Knights and what's going on. Anything else around how KP might fit into that Bradman Best scenario as well?
Well, Broncos limiting left centres to 30 points in the past 5, but a -10 to Casey McLean and just a 4 for Labour in the past fortnight. So, yeah, that does not make good reading for Bradman Best. We've even heard that KP is still, under a little bit of a fitness cloud, may not necessarily take his spot, still a little bit underdone. Regardless if he does play or not, chances are he's not 100%. And we know that, Best and Marju, those guys need, a red hot KP for him to sort of put them into space, or for them to back up, or him to back up and score tries. If he's a bit underdone and not quite there, that's even more of a reason to fade a guy like Best or Greggy Marju.
Yep, I like it. Alrighty, into the wing position. Again, 2 blokes that we've played throughout a lot of the weeks is Suafai-Longo and Jermaine Asako. For me, I'm taking the data out of Jermaine Asako and I'm going to play a bit of safety there. I think that the Dragons have given up an average of 33 to right wingers in the past 5 games. That does include 3 tries as well. The 13 games prior to that, they've allowed 1 try per game to right wingers and an average of 46 GDS points. We've talked about the Dragons shoring up their defence, yes, but as we continue along, coming to the end of the season with nothing much to play for, I think this is where maybe we see a resurgence from a lot of players against the Dragons. Asako himself averaging 54 GDS points in the past 5. That's 17 goals kicked across that time as well. That includes that game where they scored no points against the Sharks. So really, it's 17 goals in 4 games. Is he someone that you're just locking and loading?
Yeah, he is. Look, it's the run home now for the Dolphins. They're fresh off the bye, sitting in 5th, very close to a top 4 spot. They'll be, wanting to throw everything into this for their maiden finals appearance and having a really good crack at the premiership. We know that they are such an exciting outfit when all hands are on deck. So yeah, with Katoa back, this week or next week, they're every chance of a top 4 spot. I think we're going to see the best of the Dolphins, and that just means tries. It means Jermaine Asako could be scoring tries. If he's not scoring them, chances are he's kicking those conversions. And there's not many teams that give up more points than the Dragons. Certainly in that sort of bottom 5 to 8 teams that you want to be up against to kick goals against. And yeah, perfect matchup there for Jermaine Asako.
And I guess the same on the other side in terms of Suafai-Longo, who's the other probably main strongly considered player. We have a look from the bird's eye view, really, of the Dogs restricting fullbacks to just 19 points over the last 3. But when we really get down with a fine-tooth comb, Tuapiki's 9 in 35 minutes. He gets injured, he goes off. CNK comes on, 51 points in 45 minutes. It looks far more appealing for Suafai-Longo owners. 3-round average from him of 57, a 5-round average of 67. It's pretty hard to fade him knowing you're getting that upside, considering the wing position is that constant boom or bust.
Put him in that same category as Jaden Campbell. If you fade a Suafai-Longo, are you happy fading him knowing that he could, ruin your week with the 75 or an 80 despite the matchup not looking so good on paper? For me, again, no. Look, a bloke that can run over 200 meters, broke 9 tackles last game, 2 before that, but then 8, 11, and 8 in the 3 games before that. Absolute beast. If he's not scoring tries, he's still getting plenty of points just in tackle breaks alone. Look at the Seagulls matchup in round 17. No tries, no try assists, 11 tackle breaks, and 69 GDS points. You cannot sit a guy with that sort of upside, even if the team isn't going that well. He's a must play for me.
And then someone that's really surged in contention, we've talked about him a few times over the last few weeks, but Ronnie Muatalo looks set again to continue that red-hot form. Is he someone that comes into contention over, say, Nwanga Nituazi, who is currently in an absolute drought of tries and GDS points, averaging 25 over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's like he's forgotten how to play footy, hey? You know, got his Blues Origin appearance, and then he's sort of gone missing. And fortunately, I haven't needed to force him in any of my sides. I know that he has been fairly popular, you know, at least in some weeks before, you know, the downfall really started. But yeah, look, I just can't get there. But you just know that someone like Marky Mark's going to have a big game when no one plays him against the Cowboys. But look, Ronaldo wanted to play him. Wanted to play Sione last week because of the matchup with Folletti on that side of the field. They did the silly buggers and changed Folletti to the other side of the field, meaning Ito and Ronaldo had an absolute field day. The Sharkies are clicking. The wingers are going well. The centers are going well. If the matchup suits, then, yeah, Ronaldo's always a chance. He just has that scary floor, really low base, and I don't want to play 3 wingers this week.
Yep, fair enough. So that means then someone like Jacob Carraz, line through him, even though he's backed maybe to his best, still those injury concerns are around, but he's shaken them a little bit. 65 GDS points last week, 170 meters, 5 tackle breaks and a try. Pretty hard to do when you're under an injury cloud and you're not sure whether to up each game. But is that someone that you're not quite getting to yet, even though Campbell Graham just scored a double down that side against the Storm?
Yeah, if Carraz was lining up on the left, I'd be far more keen, just because that is, despite Campbell Graham scoring the double last week, consistently across the whole season, there's about a 10 or 12 point average better for the left-hand wingers than there are for the right-hand wingers. And yeah, Kiros will get through plenty of base. We just want them scoring points, wingers scoring points as well if we want a massive score. I just think the other wingers that we are rolling out maybe just have that little bit more upside. But if the matchup does look better for a right winger for the Doggies, yeah, Kiros is definitely in contention. I don't think you can go wrong. He's definitely going to get through plenty of base. He just gets up grimacing every time, doesn't he? It's so hard to watch.
Oh, yeah. My big call this week, it's not on screen, but my big call is I'm fading Milky Jenkins. And maybe it's not so much a big call having a look at some of the numbers, but we've seen 5 tries in 5 matches to left wingers against the Raiders. But I just don't see the upside for Jenkins outside of him scoring multiple tries. Yeah, if he scores 2, 3, 4, we're obviously going to get a big score. But we've seen it plenty of times. We've talked about it this season where he's scored tries and hasn't got over 30 GDS points. So for me, where there's some other upside there in terms of Sewer, in terms of Isako, we know that there's some base and power there as well. I think someone like Milky Jenkins this week is just an absolute fade.
Yeah, you're betting on tries or multiple tries, particularly against a Raiders outfit that have defensively been a lot better. Not saying that Jenkins can't find the try line, but it's another reason why I'm against Brian To'o over the last few weeks as well. The Raiders have been really good against both sides of the field. So when we've got, decent other options, they're certainly not a consideration for me.
Yeah, Raiders giving up only 22 GDS points to right wingers over the past 3 weeks. And then Braden Burns, similar type scenario against the Roosters. They're just giving up 14 points to right wingers. So even though Braden Burns has had some decent games and he's got a rolling average of 52, the same as Brian To'o over the last 3 weeks, I think both of them are fades along with Milky Jenkins. Alrighty, let's get into fullbacks and bring this home. Our strongly considered, we've got Reece Walsh, Tedesco, and Isaiah Iongi. We could also probably add the hammer to that as well. He's not on screen at the moment, but we'll touch on him. Our point of difference at the moment is still Kalen Ponga. We don't have word yet on what's happening there. For me, it's probably going to be a fade, and I'll talk about that in a moment. KO Weeks is playing some good footy and comes in as a point of difference. And then our 2 fades, Keanu Kinney and Drinkwater. Is it as simple as playing Walsh, Tedesco, and either Iongi or Hammer? What are your thoughts around those 3 or 4 players?
Yeah, my number one will be the Hammer, similar to, a number of reasons we already mentioned with Herbie and Jermaine Isako fresh off the bye. This is really where the Finn season starts, rolling into finals. So things are going to start clicking for them, and there's not many better matchups despite, an improved defensive effort from the Dragons of late. But just got to look back a couple of last 2 matches for Isako, either side of the bye and just after State of Origin. Didn't score a try in either of those 2 matches, still returned a 58 and a 78 GDS point return just the 1 try assist across those 2 matches as well. So he's not a fullback that typically relies on attacking stats to get a big score. He can get his 200 plus run meters. He does break plenty of tackles, but he's always there or thereabouts. If we're expecting the Finns to score plenty of points, there's every chance he's backing up through the middle and scoring, or he's putting one of those outside men over. So yeah, it's a plus matchup for him. I like him a little bit more than a lot of the other guys on screen there, just for that reason.
Yeah, for me, the next, I guess, is probably James Tedesco, but Reece Walsh, probably disappointing against the Cowboys last week, who James Tedesco is going to be up against this week. Walsh still came away with 56 GDS points, but I felt like it could have been so much more. Obviously, the Broncos were on the back foot a little bit. Walsh comes up against that depleted Knights. If Ponga's out as well, it probably just makes it even more juicy. At full strength, they've been giving up 50 over the last few weeks to fullbacks. But if we go back to earlier in the season where the Knights were down on troops and they didn't have a lot left in the tank earlier in the season, they were giving up close to 70 GDS points to fullbacks. We had a couple of games back-to-back with James Tedesco and Dylan Edwards scoring 100s. Is that where Reece Walsh could really turn back the potential of going 100 back-to-back over the next few weeks like he did last season?
Yeah, maybe not the same as 2025, but look, poor Knights, hey, they were looking so good, mid-season, disrupted through Origin with KP and, Dill Lucas finally getting a start in that arena, which was fantastic to see. But unfortunately, things aren't, going to plan. They've just lost Dill Lucas for the season. The season's just about done for them now, isn't it? If KP doesn't turn up this week, then it's definitely got a Brisbane ambush written all over it. They're still going to play with plenty of passion. Technically, I think there is some sort of chance that the Broncos can somehow still scrape a top 8. And Reece Walsh is such a competitor. He's definitely going to get a spot in my side this week just because of the upside. And I think the Knights are just about done. It'll be hard for them to keep turning out without Dill Brown and Dill Lucas alongside him.
Yeah, I agree. Look, James Tedesco is my number 1 fullback this week. Purely that matchup against the Cows. They're allowing 62 GDS points in the last 3 weeks. Tom Trbojevic, 50 in round 19. Hammer, as we talked about, 78 in round 20. And the Reece Walsh, as I said, at 56. So plenty of upside there for James Tedesco. The only question mark for me is if we go back to Magic round 11, James Tedesco returned a 17 points against the Cowboys. Are we going to see that again, or are we going to see something closer to that average of 60 plus from James Tedesco?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to play him, but are we having this same conversation if he didn't score 3 tries last week? 69 points from a fullback with 3 tries, isn't, that impressive, is it? He could have easily had a 40-point performance, and that would be 6 matches in a row, sort of going 50 or below. So he's not quite been the Tedesco that we're used to, or the start of the season Tedesco. Definitely capable of it on his day. If you didn't play him last week and you got your hat trick, you'd be pretty disappointed that you missed out on that hat trick. But then when you look at the scores, okay, well, 69 is not too bad. Yeah, I don't mind the matchup there. I think the Roosters are a good attacking outfit. It's got to click at some point for them. But yeah, he has been underwhelming of late. Maybe Father Time, despite the old cliche line there, might be slowly catching up to him after a big long season.
Yeah, fair enough. His rehab routine probably just not quite anymore. Look, for me, I touched on it at the start. Ponga is a fade. I'm just not sure what to expect. The laid out last week, there's still the question marks over whether he's going to play or not, has me just more than happy to put him in the fade at the moment. Look, if he returns a 50, 60, 70 points against the Broncos, then so be it. Drinky scored 54 last week against them, which included 5 goals, by the way. So there wasn't, necessarily that base and power Drinky that we've seen in the past, or that try assisting up, which I know that we'd want to get from Ponga as well. The Broncos giving up an average of 48 over the past 5. I just don't know what to expect from this depleted Knights team. Obviously, Sandon Smith comes in the halves. Ponga, if he does play, it might be on 1 or 1.5 legs. So for me, it's just an easy fade, I think, this week.
Yeah, that news coming out of Knights camp isn't too promising. They might be better off just resting him and getting him back fully fit rather than maybe risking some long-term injury.
Especially if they want to push for a top 8 spot, I think that there's a chance that they will make it. It's probably better to have him rested up at least a week or 2 for that run home, and then potentially any finals competition that they may have. Alrighty, that is it. That is all of the analysis for this week. But let's jump in and have a quick look at our consensus side. This is the Stats Lab Primetime Consensus competition. Massive shout out to the Stats Lab team. They continue to provide plenty of support for the Fantasy Bros. We love their website with all of the awesome tools that they have. Just head to statslab.app to check out the player stats from every game, the matchup strengths, the player comparisons. We've used all those analysis tools tonight, plus the player percentages, which I love. Here's our side this week. We've got Couchman and Udikamanu up front with Jeremy Marshall-King in between them, Hamish Stewart at lock, who I'm absolutely loving at the moment, by the way. Preston and Wong on either edge, and then we've got Walker and Wishart in the halves. Our backs, Herbie Farmworth and Toya, make up the centres, and we've got Suafalongo and Sarko on the wings, and then Tedesco at fullback. And then across to our consensus starting 13 for the whole round, the full slate. We've talked about all these blokes today, but Ollie Pascoe in the middle there just gets it over Blake Brayley for us at hooker, then Couchman and Haas with Twal at lock. Preston and Couchman in the edge position, and then our halves, Hines and Cleary. Obviously, the centres, Herbie and Dewey, as we said, Sarko and Sua on the wings, and then Reece Walsh probably just edges out Hammer, but I think maybe you might have turned me around on Hammer a little bit as well, so I think I'm leaning that way. Alrighty, we have touched on it a few times, but how good it is to see another win for Dyl in the BroDown Showdown. And just a quick shout out to Coach Stephen. He voted for you in the comments on YouTube and said that I've been too distracted with everything that's going on. So a proof that I can.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Jobs. I can wear plenty of hats and I can still get the job done from a analysis point of view. So anyone that nominated me for the win in BroDown Showdown, you've gone into the wheel. And Stu, you spun that off screen. Who is the winner?
3 MB.
Mate, I think is that 2 weeks in a row from Reece MB? That's unreal.
Yes, it was.
Perfect. So all you have to do to get involved is to comment who you think is going to win, and you could be in luck, just like Reece 3 MB, to win a 9-player rare or unique pack. Hopefully you can see that on screen there, Stu.
Yeah, gotcha.
Perfect. Reece, remember, all you need to do is DM me, and I will send you all 9 cards that we hit in this pack here. Let's jump straight into it and see if we got some goods. Not a good start. Tyrrell May in the gold there, so hopefully that is a great card for you this weekend. Morgan Smithies playing lock at the moment, I believe, for the Raiders. That's the plat. Blake Brayley, the gold there. Drinky, gold. Nice. Dill Brown gold. That's unfortunate. He's obviously gone for likely the rest of the season, but could be one for the future. Harry Hayes gold, Murray gold, and then a Fainu plat. So make sure you hit me up on Discord to get all of those cards there. Reece, congratulations, mate. And just like Reece, all you need to do is comment who you think is going to win this week's BroDown Showdown. You can see I'm up 13-9 at the moment. So we might have to start getting into double points soon to get Stu back into it. But Stu's gone Hammer at fullback, Asako on the wing, and then Ryan Couchman on the edge, up against my James Tedesco, Suafalongo, and Jacob Preston. So if you think Stu's going to get it done this week, make sure you comment Stu. If you think I'm going to go up by 5, then comment Dyl. You can do that all the way up into the first game of the Sunday Showdown. So make sure you get your comments either live or onto YouTube or Spotify and Apple after the conclusion of this show. Alrighty, mate, that is it. Another massive show done and dusted. We're getting very close to the end of the season. Only 6 rounds to go until we get to that last round, and then we get into the finals competition. Can't wait for all the things happening over the next few weeks. So make sure you are following us across all of our socials: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, obviously Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. We're going to have plenty happening at the Fantasy Bros, including AFLW, AFL, NRL, NFL, and Big Bash later on in the year as well. Stu, thank you very much, mate. Good luck for the weekend. Thank you to everyone that commented and joined us. Let us know if you think that 6:30 time slot is much better for you. Have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you soon. See you, Stu. See you guys.
Thanks, Dyl. Thanks, everyone. Good luck.